Well, welcome to March in Utah. Such a nice spring day 3 weeks ago when we did our first little intro, and now we got snow.
Today on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, we are skipping over some private property to the east side of Santaquin, then past the village of Spring Lake to Payson.
This is probably a good time to set some ground rules. First rule is we're going to actually try and hike the entire thing in order from south to north, so we'll end up in Logan. Second rule is we're going to try as best we can to stay on established trails. I like bushwhacking, but we probably don't want to be doing a lot of that. And I'd hate to encourage people to get out into places that are kind of tough to get through. And that leads to the third rule, which is that we want to, as much as possible, stay on trail that is open to the public. If we're in private property, we'll try and stay in land that is not posted, that is not restricted, that appears to be open to the public and used by the public in an established way. Here where we're walking right now is a good example of that. We're actually on private property, but we made sure that it wasn't posted, and it clearly people are using it quite a bit, so we're okay with that. And this is interesting. It's this big ditch in the side of the hill here. That is certainly not an irrigation canal. It's way too steep. I wonder what's going on here. Hey, I know exactly who to talk to about that. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brandon.
First person I thought of about this is my next door neighbor. Well, my office next door neighbor. This is Matt Bekker. He's another geography professor at BYU. And Matt's specialty is physical geography. In fact, his real specialty is he's a dendrochronologist. He's one of those tree ring people. So I often have the smell of sawdust in my office. So you also teach a general ed class. What's that class called again?
It's called Landscapes of Disaster.
Don't you just love those names for general ed classes to try to get the butts in the seats? I don't know if this would be a landscape of disaster here, and I'd hate to diss Santaquin, but I think we do have some things that we're looking at here that are related to what you talk about in your class. What is that? What is the class about?
So we used to call it Introduction to Natural Hazards.
Yeah, that's boring.
A little more boring. So we get them in there, and then they realize that's what it really is.
What we're going to see here all along the Bonneville Shoreline Trail is the trail is almost kind of like this boundary line of the city and the wilderness, which we call the wildland urban interface.
Yeah, we call it the WUI. We have wildland to our left and urban just a little ways to our right, and we're right on the boundary between that. And as people move in closer to natural areas, they have to kind of accept those natural areas on their terms.
We're here at the base of Dry Mountain. So all those dead trees up there, what is that from?
A fire that occurred in 2001, late in the year. It's called the Molly Fire.
And then we get
it was the following fall.
Our monsoon season in the fall.
That all that rain hit that fresh soil and picked up the soil with it and carried it down here.
If you look up the canyon, you can see there'd be nothing to stop the rain and the mud once that gets going.
You know, we're gonna have more people who wanna come into this area, and there's not as much space out in the main part of the valley anymore. So there's gonna be more pressure up here in the wildland urban interface. And we need to think about these things. And again, as you said, including thinking about the trail and how people can enjoy the area without facing disasters.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out where to go here. None of this trail is official in this area. If you haven't tried it, you need to go on to stateofthebst.org. We've got a web map there. It tracks your location so we can actually kind of follow along with the trail, and we've tried to categorize it so you can tell what is official trail, what's open to the public but not official, what's closed off and please don't go there. What was the fourth category? Oh, the fourth category is there's nothing there now, but maybe one day they'll build something. It looks like I'm seeing a trail there, but it looks kind of too high for, we need to go down further here. So let's keep going down and we'll find another place to cross over the ditch. I hope this ditch works. You know, it hasn't been tested yet, so.
Yep. You look at how much mud hit that other development, and you look at this thing, you're like, Maybe, but see what usually happens is something like that takes place. They say we still want to develop, so they say, okay, we can develop as long as we put in this trench.
And then they develop right up next to it.
And next to it, and then 20 years later, they say, oh, no landslide, we're done. And they pull the thing back out again.
Or put it in a pipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we gotta try and cut across the ditch here. We probably should have done this where that nice trail went across, and I said, oh, we don't need to do it yet.
That's for the non-adventurous people.
Now we do need to do it, and we got a lousy spot. All right. Oh. This is when I feel my age. Come on. There we go, one shot.
I guess in my mind, I thought this was mostly done already, and because I'd been on parts of the trail where they are clearly marked and clearly developed. I didn't realize that there were things like this where there's basically nothing.
There's nothing. Yeah, it's. I've been really surprised by this too. I mean, we've had a long time to build it, and here we've got a lot of sections that are not nearly done, and that if you went down there and asked people like, you know, where's the Bonneville Shoreline Trail through here, they're like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, this is interesting. Look at this.
Wow.
There's this big giant clearing right through the hillside here. Very recent.
Yep.
Still muddy. I'm guessing this is most likely a trench that was dug for a possible subdivision being built up here or something.
I primarily think they'd be looking for soil stability on a slope like this, but similar trenches have been dug in other places along the Wasatch to try to identify past earthquake events.
I'm not going across there. Actually, there's a fence right there. That's the border between the city and the Forest Service.
Okay.
Future potential maybe trail. Well, here's that other spot we've been talking about where it got real bad, right? So
right.
You can see this deep ravine down here coming out of that canyon. I believe that neighborhood there was like brand new in 2001.
Yeah, you could still see some people putting in landscaping. There was landscaping equipment, and in fact, some of the houses weren't even done yet.
So it came right out there and right through the middle of that neighborhood. Ah. Clear. Awesome.
A little more dainty than you guys.
Ahead of us, we're gonna stop here pretty quick because there's really no good route for a while here. We have a gravel pit ahead of us, and so we're gonna skip ahead here a bit. Well, Matt, thanks for being my guinea pig here, my first guest.
Well, it's a beautiful day, and excuse to get out and stretch the legs a little and see some new things.
Amazing, there was a lot of snow up there. Now there's like none down here.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, well, thanks again, and we'll talk to you on Monday, I guess. See ya.
Later.
We're on part 2 of today's hike. We're here in Spring Lake. We started in Picayune Canyon there, interesting name. And this is gonna be an out and back, so you're gonna have to go down there and come back, so make sure we cover this. We're on Forest Service property now. This is not actually trail, but if you look at it, it's actually in really good shape. Whoa! We're here at this little thing's called Crooked Canyon. In 2002, this was the site of one of the larger debris flows that we were talking about. There's no houses right here, which was good, but it went down, hit the canal down there. The canal backed up, flooded several houses because of that. So you can see here they're kind of experimenting with these nets to stop some of the debris. Looks kind of like an old road, but it looks like a really poorly made old road, and that's because it isn't an old road. This is from the wildfire back in 2018. The Forest Service came through and cut this fire break. So this was not meant to be a road, it was meant to just be a quick and dirty plow through the woods to prevent the fire from coming down this far. Horses and hikers are continuing to use it as a trail, so it's probably a good site for the BST to be eventually. Both sides of this now are private property, but you can see down here the landowner has his orchard down there and wanted to kind of keep out the access, so he built this really tall fence, which is actually kind of nice because I get the impression that he's allowing us public access on this side of the fence and being able to keep his private property rights on the other side. I have some mud here. We're gonna have a bit of a trench here, so we're gonna have some mud for a little ways. Back in Orem, all the orchards were replaced by subdivisions named Apple Orchard Farms and Cherry Orchard Estates, and the orchards moved to Santaquin. So this conversation we had today with Matt, was really a good picture of the power of geography. We tell our students that geography is not so much about the things you study, it's about the way you study them. So this idea of us looking at the relationship of all of these different things, of the urban planning and the development and the real estate, as well as the wildlife and the natural hazards and the natural environment, and how all those things work together at this location, is just something that geography is really good at doing. Which is why I like it. Sometimes we like to say that geographers are a jack of all trades and master of none, because we're just kind of interested in everything and how it all relates to each other. But I really like that. I really like being able to kind of just notice things and wonder about them, regardless of what subject they are. Plus, every once in a while, you get a really nice view.
After that sunny day, we resumed our hike from Spring Lake better equipped for the weather and hit the trail going north again.
Okay, this is not exactly a trail here. I thought we found the spot, but this is not great. There's actually about 3 different things like this that climb up the bench from the bottom of the canyon, and they're all terrible. So if this was ever developed as a trail, it would need some real work in this area right here. This is Picayune Canyon. Picayune, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Old word means kind of inconsequential or little or something. It's actually a really nice canyon. Very, very pretty. Well, we're here above Spring Lake, this little hamlet sandwiched in between Payson and Santaquin. One of the things that Spring Lake is known for is it's the birthplace of the Timpanogos tribe chief Black Hawk. Even though he's known for the Black Hawk War that he helped to instigate, the war was mostly much further south, down in southern and central Utah. He eventually died and was buried, actually, we believe, up here in Picayune Canyon by members of his tribe. And then several years later, some miners up there, I don't know why they would do this, but found his grave and dug him up, and we're kind of showing the bones around, like these are the bones of Black Hawk. Can you believe anything that disrespectful? Eventually, somehow, the bones ended up in the hands of the LDS Church. They gave them to the Natural History Museum at BYU. And fortunately, eventually in the 1990s, the members of the Timpanogos tribe were able to secure those, and BYU donated it back to them. And now he's buried down there by the lake with a very nice little memorial to him down there. So it kind of ended well if it didn't go well in the middle. This is really one of my favorite stretches of what I guess could eventually be the BST. It's nice and kind of remote, by yourself. There's not a lot of people out here. Views are awesome. They're overlooking the Payson Temple down there. Some of this new growth in Payson. It's pretty nice stretch of trail. I like it. But it's cold. Did I say that already? Spencer's trying to warm up his hands here.
You gotta be kidding me.
Another one of these bad ravine crossings. It is a pretty ravine though, filled with lots of maple. Even though there's no fence on this side, on the other side there was a fence that had no trespassing signs on it. But this whole area here, all this undeveloped property here, was recently purchased by a developer. The upside is that the developer is really keen on, they know that they've kind of purchased a lot of mountainside here, and so they're really keen on keeping a lot of open space and having some trails and as an amenity for the houses that'll probably be down there in the valley more. So we actually have permission to kind of explore where we might put the BST up here. So that's exciting. So we're gonna kind of go cross country here and see what we can find, eh? Well, that's a change. This road actually follows a major gas pipeline. One of the things we'll see a lot on the BST is a lot of utility lines following this boundary of the city. We've got Forest Service property. That whole hill there is Forest Service property. And there's a very narrow corridor that goes down to the bottom of the canyon and back up the other side to get to that road you can see. That's where we want to get to. Eventually, I think what you could do here is you could do some switchbacks down to the bottom of the canyon and get to that road on the other side. We're going to see how that goes. So let's try and find a path through the woods down here. This looks almost like a path. Okay, see that post right there? That's the property corner. So the Forest Service property like does a wedge right there, and then it expands back out. So like a big X basically right at that property corner. So the trail would have to basically kind of cross that corner and then work its way all the way to the bottom there. However, we're gonna find our way down there to the road. Here's a decent deer path for a minute here. Did I mention I'm more than 50? Careful, it's muddy. All right, we made it. Spencer almost made it. Oh, right here. Let's go down right here. Kind of a rocky spot here. That's the place we want to climb out. What do you think of the chances I can get this over to there? The goal here is to make sure that we can get you across without getting wet. If I have an accident, that's okay, I guess. My equipment here. Okay. We've done it. I can get it. I can get both of those.
Good bridge, Dad.
So we would definitely, you'd need to build an actual real bridge across there. That'd probably be the most expensive part of doing this. And we're still on Forest Service property. See that there? It's a nice big herd. Well, that was something. That's what we just barely came down off of. You can see the ridge up, not the top ridge there, but the lower ridge, and we zigzagged our way down there and across the stream and back up to here. I can actually see the property corner that we were at. And that narrow corridor, that is like the steepest part of the hill. That's, I don't know. We may want to talk to some of the other property owners, see if we can get a little leeway there, but possible, but it wasn't much fun. One of the problems with these utility routes, like this gas pipeline we're on, is that you look at them on a map and they look like very nice and straight. I can just look down this now and it's all nice and straight. Except what that means is they just go up and down the hills. You can actually see back there in the background, that cleared path is actually the gas pipeline we were on before, on the other side of the canyon. And you can see that's a very nice straight line that goes straight up the mountain and actually comes straight back down and it goes straight back up again, further up the canyon, back into Payson. Oh, hey, look at that. You know, these are a bit of something of a hobby of mine. I guess I'm what you might call a geo-collector. I get obsessed with something, and then I have to map every single one of them. And I've mapped 500 of these so far across the western United States. You get 3 guesses how they got started and where they got started. No, not wrong. Now you went and looked at the Wikipedia page. There's one in Hawaii on the island of Maui at Lahaina High School that possibly was first about 1904. The first one that's really well documented was at Berkeley of all places. The University of California used to have these massive rivalries between the different classes, the freshmen, sophomores, junior, senior classes. And they started to get actually violent. So they said, well, we need to kind of quash this. And so the classes got together in 1905 to kind of do this stunt essentially and put a big C on the mountain above the university. Still there. It's really hard to find. Spencer and I tried to find it a few years ago, and it's really hidden in the trees now, as opposed to a lot of the ones here in Utah that are really obvious to see from a long ways away. The one at BYU got built the next year, Utah also the next year, and eventually you were seeing them all over the place, especially really commonly for high schools like here in Payson. We have a bit of a decision to make here now. We've had this really nice, for a while, level shoreline bench that we've been walking across here out of Payson. But now it all kind of just dies off. It's all just a slope here. So there's no real obvious place to put the trail. In fact, we have three options now. One of them is to go up and around Woodland Hills and Elk Ridge. You can kind of see the base of the mountains there. It's really good because that'd have the most character like the Bonneville Shoreline Trail has most other places. It's quite high. We're upwards of 800 feet higher than the actual shoreline, so there'd be a fair amount of climbing to get up there around the backside of Woodland Hills. It's also a lot of private property that's closed to the public. The second option would be to go down here and actually follow kind of right through the middle of Elk Ridge there. The advantage of that is that's actually where the Bonneville shoreline is. So level with us, we'd have to go down and then kind of back up, but I don't know if we want to go through town. We'll try it out, but I don't know if that's the best option. The third option is to actually come down here and go out along the Strawberry Highline Canal, which you can see kind of snaking out through the middle there below Elk Ridge and out through Salem and eventually out to Spanish Fork. The advantage of that is that the cities already have a plan to eventually put in a nice paved bike path all the way along the Strawberry Highline Canal. Huge undertaking, probably $50 million over several years to build that. That has been kind of the default, if you will, of these cities down here to say, oh, let's just put the shoreline trail there because we're already planning on putting a trail there. But they all accept, I've talked to several of the planners, and they all kind of say, well, it's not really kind of what the image of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail is. I think today we'll try our hand kind of looking maybe up in the hills here a little bit and see what our possibilities are. And I can see a bit of a clearing up there, up high on the ridge there. So we'll try that, but it means one more climb today. I was thinking this trail was going to be nice and level, going around Tithing Mountain here. That's Tithing Mountain back there. It keeps going down and up for some reason. I don't know why it's going down and up so much. The problem at the top of the ridge is it's nice and flat, so that you don't get a good view because there's too many bushes and trees. And here is a great view of the southern part of the valley, of Elk Ridge and Woodland Hills, Salem. We are right in their path. Look at them bound. That's amazing how they just bounce, like bounce, 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 bounce. Oh, look at that. Let's take a look here. Oh yeah, we are crossing a property line, and I guess the previous owner didn't have a problem with us. On that side they do. So I'm living by my rules, and I'm tired. So I guess we're done. We're gonna head back now, and I'll mark this where this is, so we'll put that on the map that this is the end of what you can legally go on. So let's turn around, head home.
On the way home, we decided to check out that lower path first.
Nah, it's not worth it. I'll see you in Spanish Fork.